विचारणैकनिपुणं तद्धर्म संस्थापक लोकानां हितकारिणां त्रिभुवने मन्नं शरण्यकरं राधा कृष्ण राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्दौ भजनामृतौ राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्दौ भजना नंदेन मत्तालिका वंदे रूप सनातनं रघुजुगौ श्रीजी कृष्ण कीर्तन गान नर्तन परौ प्रेमा मनिधि वीर वीर जनप्रिय निर्माणोदित श्री चैतन्य कृपा भरौ हरा महंत रकौ वंदे रूप सनातनं रघुवीर सुदे सुदे सुरे सुतराज्यलक्ष्मी धर्मीश्च आर्जवदस जगदाद रन्ना मंडलस्नी सदा तुच्छब भूत्वा दीनगणे शतो करुणया मंडलपति शनि सदा तुच्छव भूत्वा दीनगणे शतो करुणया कौपीन कंठास्थितौ गोपी भावरसामृताब्दलहरी गोपी भावरसामृताब्दलहरी कल्लोलमग्नं वन्दे रूप सनातनं रघुजुगौ श्रीजीवगो पालक.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We wholeheartedly welcome everyone for this Saturday virtual Sadhu Sangha from ISKCON of Richmond. We are very, very grateful that you all are here. Thank you for joining us. We see there are devotees from all over. Of course, we have ISKCON Richmond Sangha, but we have devotees from India and different yatras in America. So we are very, very grateful. Thank you very much for joining. And Hare Krishna, dear Hari Parshad Prabhu, we are truly, truly honored and grateful for your kind association, giving us your invaluable time. So for those who do not know much about His Grace Hari Parshad Prabhu, I would just like to give a brief introduction. His Grace Hari Parshad Prabhu is a senior disciple of His Holiness Shraddha Govind Swami Maharaj. Prabhu is currently in Mumbai. He's a professor in a Mumbai University, but Prabhu has been practicing bhakti for many, many years, in fact, decades from a very young age. He is truly, truly a scholar of our scriptures. He's been studying the scriptures. He's been studying the Sanskrit language from very, very young age. And he is also serving on a very, very important committee, on a board in ISKCON. He's a core member of Shastra committee, advisory Shastra committee in ISKCON, which is a very, very important body. So basically, Prabhu has very, very deep understanding of our scriptures. By deep understanding, I mean not just understanding the philosophical part, but he is truly, truly empowered by understanding the heart of our Vaishnava acharyas, which is presented in the writings. And Prabhu has been loved for his wonderful nectarian talks all over our ISKCON communities all around the world. He's based, like I said, he's based in Mumbai. He's living with his wife and his son and his mother. And he's also serving as an editor on Gopalji publication, which is basically the original publication of His Holiness Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj. And Prabhu is also doing so many other wonderful, wonderful services to Vaishnavas and ISKCON Srila Prabhupada. We are truly honored, Prabhu. Thank you so very much. And we are eagerly waiting to hear from you on this very important topic, as we know that this is the month of marathon, and we are distributing Srila Prabhupada books. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada also wanted us to study his books. He also wanted us to study the scriptures. So who could speak on this subject better than Hari Parshad Prabhu? He'll give us some practical applications and explain us the mood and ways to study the scriptures. So once again, thank you, Hari Parshad Prabhu. Over to you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me, Prabhu, clearly?
Yes, Prabhu, loud and clear.
Thank you so much, Divyanam Prabhu, for kindly inviting me here to ISKCON Richmond Sangha. And I'm truly honored and privileged to be present here amongst like-minded devotees such as your good self and all the other wonderful devotees from the various sanghas around the world who are present here. My sincere thanks to all of you for kindly being here and helping me in my seva of speaking something on the proper mood and method of approaching Shastra. So it is mentioned in Shastra itself that before we approach Shastra, we should first and foremost offer some auspicious invocations or Mangalacharan. So we will begin our program with Mangalacharan. Most of us already know these verses, so you can kindly sing along with me. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratrushe Namah He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrashbhanusute Devi Pranavami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. So once again, thank you very much, Divyanam Prabhu, and all the other wonderful devotees who are present here today. I am trying to discuss a very deep and confidential topic, that is regarding the proper mood and method of approaching Shastra. Before I begin, I'd like to share my screen, and the screen is now in front of all of us. So today we wish to see something regarding the mood and method of approaching Shastra. Before I begin, I would like to say that I'm myself a student of Shastra, and I wish to remain throughout my life a student of Shastra. I do not wish to have a day in my life when either I say to myself or somebody else says to me that, you have mastered Shastra. Because Shastra itself says, Naham manya suvedeti, no navedeti vedacha. I can never say that I have completely understood the truth, nor can I ever say that I have not understood the truth at all. So, to enter into the world of Shastra is to enter into the mood and world of being an eternal student. And it is with this mood of a student that I am trying to present today something about the mood and method of approaching Shastra. All of what is being presented today is something that I have heard from my various Gurujanas, or I have seen in their practical behavior. But before we begin discussing this, I would like to begin with a quote from His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Uvacha, Prabhupada said something in the book Teachings of Lord Kapila, in the 9th chapter. Prabhupada says, therefore, not a single moment should be lost. Human life should be utilized only for chanting and reading Vedic literatures. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is publishing many books so that people can utilize their time properly by reading them and make their lives successful. Not only should we read Srimad Bhagavatam, but we should also serve the person Bhagavat, one whose life is nothing but Srimad Bhagavatam. So, a very beautiful realization by Srila Prabhupada that not a single moment should be lost, and each and every moment should be used either for our japa, our kirtan, or our swadhyay, or our reading, self-study of Vedic literature. But self-study by itself may not be able to give us the highest truth. Therefore, besides self-study, we should also approach the person Bhagavat who is living the life that is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, when I thought about gaining Shastric knowledge, or when I thought about this topic of approaching Shastra, so a particular section in the Vedic literature immediately came to my mind. Srila Prabhupada always said, especially in his purports, he said that amongst all the Vedic dictionaries, the most prominent one is known as Nirukta. So, dear devotees, Nirukta is the name of the most prominent Vedic dictionary. And most of the Vedic terms that are defined in the Nirukta, they are found directly in the Vedas. So this Nirukta is the standard Vedic dictionary according to Srila Prabhupada. And there is a particular section in the Nirukta. And in this section, there is a dialogue between two individuals. And these two individuals are a Brahmana who is fully learned, and Vidya Devi. Vidya is the personified deity of Shastric knowledge. So in Nirukta, Vidya Devi, she approaches the fully learned Brahmana and she has something to say to him. What does she say to the Brahmana? She says, Vidya havai Brahmana ma jagama. Vidya Devi, personified, approached a Brahmana and said to him, what did she say? Gopaya mam shevadhishte hamasmi. Gopaya mam, please protect me. Shevadhis te ham asmi. I am your Shevadhi, I am your wealth. So, knowledge personified approached a Brahmana and said, please protect me because I am your exclusive wealth. But protect you from whom? So she said, Asuya kayan rijave yataya. So from three types of people, please protect me. First is Asuya kaya. If a person is envious of me, if a person dislikes me. Unrijave, if a person is not riju, is not simple, if he is crooked-hearted. Or ayataya, or a person who is devoid of sense control. If these three type of people ever approach you, O Brahmana, then what should you do? Namabruya viryavati yathasyam. Then never give me unto such a person. Yatha, by doing so, viryavati syam, I will remain extremely potent. So, the first thing that Vidya or knowledge of Shastra expects is that she should not be given to an unqualified person. She should never be given to an unqualified person. Why? Because in all Shastra, only the qualified person, the adhikari, is the person who can actually apply that Vidya, that knowledge in his or her life and derive the benefit. Other people will misunderstand it, and furthermore, they will propagate those misunderstandings. And they will label those misunderstandings as genuine understandings. And they will render a great disservice to Vidya. So please, she said, please do not share me with people who are not qualified. So, when we approach Shastra, when we want to study Shastra, the first thing we should understand that every Shastra expects us to be an adhikari or an eligible person. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says at the end, idam te na tapaskaya na abhaktaya kadachana. That please do not speak this knowledge to someone who is not austere or someone who is not a devotee. So Krishna also defines an adhikari, an eligible person for understanding Shastra. This is especially important in today's world. Because in today's world, almost everything has become commodified. There are very few things which have not been turned into commodities. Even the water which we are drinking, which was earlier available for free from wells, ponds, rivers, and lakes, that water has been purified and commodified and sold to us in packaged bottles. So when the water we drink, the air we breathe, all these basic necessities have been commodified, then what to speak of Vidya? There is every chance that an unqualified person will commodify Vidya, and even though he or she doesn't understand the purpose of Vidya, the purpose of Shastric knowledge, they will try to misuse it in order to attain some selfish goal in life. Therefore, Vidya is very afraid of such people. And she says to a Brahmana who is truly learned, please rescue me from such people. Do not give me unto such people. So we should understand that before we approach Shastra, we should know that Shastra is meant for qualified people. And if we are not qualified, then we should hear it from someone who is qualified. We should pray to them, we should request them to make us qualified to understand Shastra. Now, before we go in that direction, there are many people who will raise doubts on the very necessity of studying Shastra. Some individuals will say, why study Shastra in the first place? What is the need of studying Shastra? Some individuals will take it one step ahead and say, we do not need to study Shastra because, well, everything we already know and we should just chant chant the Maha Mantra and we can go back home, back to Godhead. Why should we study Shastra? What is the need and necessity for studying Shastra? So this question should be answered first. And this question should be answered not by me, not by my opinion. It should be answered by the opinions of the previous great acharyas. In our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, one of the most learned acharyas is Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada specifies that there is a specific reason why we need to study and understand Shastra. So we need to study and understand Shastra because all of us want to understand Krishna or want to have a relationship with Krishna. And in order to understand Krishna, in order to come in contact with Krishna, in order to know about Krishna, the only means is through Shastra, especially through Vedic literature. In the Tattva Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami makes a statement. Srila Jiva Goswami says, Tasmat Ved eva smakam sarvatit sarvashraya sarvachintyashcharya svabhavam vastu vividishatam pramanam. He says, Tasmat, therefore it is established. Veda eva, it is only the Vedas, only the Vedic literature. Asmakam, for us. Sarva atita, because we want to know that personality who is Sarva atita, beyond all material nature. Sarva ashraya, who is the shelter of everyone. Sarva achintya ascharya swabhavam, who is inconceivable and whose nature is wonderful. Vastu, we want to know that object, Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Vivideshatam, and we are enthusiastic to know about that personality. But Veda eva pramanam. But our only way of understanding him is through the Vedas. Dear devotees, there are three pramanas, three main ways of gaining knowledge in the world. Pratyaksha praman, that is direct sense perception. Anuman praman, that is logical inference. And Shabda praman, that is verbal testimony of the Vedas. And in order to approach the transcendental object, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, it is not possible to approach him through our direct sense perception or through logic. It is only possible by accepting Vedas or by accepting Shastra as the Praman. This is the translation. Therefore, for those of us who wish to know about that transcendental truth which is beyond all matter, which is the shelter of everyone, which is inconceivable and which is of a wonderful nature, and the Vedas are only means to understand it. So, this is the reason why we need to study Shastra. Now, I would like to, do a small exercise. So, Divyanam Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, I can hear you.
So Prabhu, please put forth an argument and say, but we have Harinam already. So why do we need to accept this statement and study Shastra? Please put this argument.
Yes, so Hari Parshad Prabhu, we have holy names, and this is the age to chant holy names, and holy names is the only process. So why do we study Shastras then?
Very nice, Prabhuji. But where did you hear that the holy name is the process of this age?
Harir Nam, eva kevalam kalo nastev gatiranyata.
Yeah, but where did you hear that statement?
Well, this statement is coming from our Vedas, and this statement is coming from our Acharyas.
Right. So you heard that statement in Shastra, Prabhu.
Yes, that's true.
And where is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra first found?
In our scriptures, yeah. That is so true.
So everything, including the Mahamantra itself, as well as the glories of the Mahamantra, are all rooted in the Vedas. Therefore, if we want to approach Krishna, and if we want to know the means of approaching Krishna, including the mantras, they are all to be found only in the Vedas. And therefore, it is very important to understand Shastra, because even the means of perfection, including the names of Hari, they are those which are mentioned in the Shastra and the Vedas. Therefore, Shastra is the original Pramana, or the original means of attaining our relationship with Krishna. And somebody may say, well, okay, but you may say that for approaching Krishna and having a relationship with Krishna, you need Shastra. But for bhakti, you don't need Shastra. Bhakti, you can begin even without Shastra. So Srila Jiva Goswami says, please stop and think about it. Can bhakti begin with zero support from Shastra? So Srila Jiva Goswami says, this is not the case. Most of us have heard that the first stage in bhakti is Shraddha. So once again, Divyanam Prabhu, how do we translate Shraddha?
Shraddha is basically our faith. We put our faith in something, Shraddha.
Yes, so faith in something. Very nice. Now the question is, if bhakti begins with Shraddha or faith, the question is faith in what?
Faith in our teachers, faith in holy names, faith in scriptures.
Okay. So, because this term Shraddha, and it is mentioned, this is originally mentioned in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, that the first stage of bhakti is Shraddha. So, Srila Jiva Goswami says, Shraddha, what is the exact definition of Shraddha? And Srila Jiva Goswami defines Shraddha very clearly. He says, Shastrartha Vishwasa Eva Shraddha. What is Shraddha? Shastra Artha Vishwas. To have implicit faith in the meanings of Shastra itself is Shraddha. That is, what is the definition? Shraddha in what? So Shraddha in the meanings of Shastra. That what Shastra is telling us is true. Chant Hare Krishna and you will go back home, back to Godhead. Well, says who? Says Shastra. Or render service to the devotees and you will attain perfection. Says who? Says Shastra. So the first step in our bhajan is Shraddha. But Shraddha in what? So Shraddha, like Prabhupada used to say, faith doesn't mean blind faith. So we don't put blind faith in a person. Prabhupada always used to say that faith means it is supported by Shastra. So that faith is truly faith which is supported by Shastra. So because there are so many gurus in this world who say, have Shraddha, have faith in me, and I will help you. But they don't say that have faith in Shastra. But our acharyas are so transparent. They could have very well said, Shraddha means putting faith in Sanatan Goswami. He could have said like that. But Sri Jiva Goswami says, Shastrartha Vishwasa Eva Shraddha. This is eternal truth. From time immemorial, they have not changed the message even one bit. To have implicit faith in the message of the eternal Shastras, that is Shraddha. And then he says, Iti labdhe Shraddha taratamyena Shraddhavatam taratamyam. So by the variations, by the degree of one's Shraddha in Shastra, the degree of one's devotion is understood. So the greater degree of faith one has in Shastra, the better a devotee, such a person is considered. So this is the translation. He says, actually faith in the meanings of Shastra is known as Shraddha. And once this fact is established, then we understand that the degree of advancement of a devotee is according to their degree of faith in Shastra. So this is in his commentary to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And I have quoted his exact words so that no doubts are remaining. Shastrartha Vishwas Eva Shraddha. So when we say Shraddha, Shraddha means faith in the literature, Vedic literature, especially in the Bhakti literature. That is Shraddha for us. So even for beginning Bhakti, we need Shraddha, but that Shraddha should be in the words of Shastra. And as well as in the Guru who is explaining the words of Shastra. When this Shraddha is present, that time we become adhikari. Shraddhavan jan hoy bhakti adhikari. A person who has Shraddha becomes bhakti adhikari, eligible for bhakti. See, it's the month of December and we distribute many books to many individuals. But many of them don't turn up in the temples because we gave them a book, we gave them Shastra, but they did not have Shraddha. They did not have that implicit faith in what? They did not have that implicit faith in Shastra. So we don't go and tell them, well, see, Prabhupada says this and therefore you should believe it. We say, see, Bhagavad Gita says this and therefore you should have faith in it. So Shastra Vishwas, to have faith in Shastra is Shraddha. So this fact should be established in our heart that for beginning bhakti, we need to have Shastriya Shraddha. And this is the importance of Shastra at the very beginning of the process of bhakti. And after Shraddha, so it's not only sufficient to have faith in Vedic literature, but one should also know how to properly understand Vedic literature. See, as I said, today's age is an age of commodification. So nowadays you will find that the four Vedas, you are able to purchase the four Vedas from a bookshop, and you can purchase four Vedas from a bookshop if you start reading the four Vedas. So there's no issue and all the translations are there. But if the Vedas have become so accessible today, earlier they were not so accessible. Earlier, you could not purchase the four Vedas 500 years ago during the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You could not purchase the four Vedas from a bookshop or order them from Amazon. But today you can order the four Vedas from Amazon and they will be home delivered to you. So question is, if the Vedas have become so easily accessible today, why is it that the people who understand the Vedas, who write commentaries on the Vedas are almost zero in today's age? Why is it? Because ease of access should mean more people are taking an interest, more people are reading, more people are explaining it, more people are studying it, more people are writing realizations and commentaries upon it. You see, with everything in the modern world, this is what happens. A mobile phone is invented, everybody uses it, everybody has it, everybody is writing their realizations upon it, everybody is commenting upon it. When a laptop is invented, everybody uses it, everybody writes about it, everybody is writing their realizations upon it. But the Vedas are made accessible. Suddenly, nobody is reading it, nobody is understanding it, nobody is able to write commentaries upon it. What's happening here? So the reason is because the Vedas themselves say that in order to understand the Vedas, there is a specific procedure. And the Vedas cannot be home delivered via a supermarket. So in order to understand the Vedas, one has to approach a guru in a proper sampradaya. And Srila Prabhupada often used to quote this verse. Tad vijnanartham sagurum eva bhigachet samit pani shrotriyam brahmanishtham. It's not actually a word, it's a paragraph. Tad vijnanartham. Tad vijnana artham. To understand, to realize the Vedas. Sa, that student, gurum eva abhigachet, should approach certainly and exclusively the guru. And how should the student approach? Samit panihi. Pani means his hands. Samit means with firewood in his hands. Why? Because traditionally, the gurus used to perform fire sacrifices. So the disciple is supposed to bring something for the guru as a token of reciprocation. So Samit Pani, since the student is not earning anything, what can the student get for helping the guru? So the student gets some firewood for performing Vedic sacrifice. By bringing the firewood in his hand, he indicates his willingness to learn the Vedas. And how should the guru be? Shrotriyam, fully learned, and Brahmanishtam, fixed in the absolute truth. This was the procedure earlier to understand the Vedas. Dear devotees, this is how traditionally Vedic knowledge is understood. So, in such an environment, people study the Vedas. In such an environment, people can understand the Vedas. Because in this atmosphere, no student can commodify the Vedas. When a student is studying like this, he can't start a YouTube channel and start explaining Vedas to everybody and then monetize the channel and make millions of views out of it and make money out of it. Because that is not the purpose of studying the Vedas. When the student is studying the Vedas, the student has only one purpose in his mind. And that purpose is that I want to understand what is Tattva, what is the absolute truth. With only this purpose in one's mind can one understand the Veda. With any other purpose, one's understanding of Veda will not give the desired result. So, everything in the world can be commodified, but try as hard as we want, we cannot commodify the Veda because it is exclusively meant for adhikaris or for eligible people who follow the procedure of approaching a guru. So this is the translation. To learn the Veda, one must approach the guru. In doing so, the student, he should carry fuel to burn in sacrifice. The symptom of such a spiritual master is that he is expert in understanding the Vedic conclusion and therefore he is fixed in the absolute truth. So the very procedure of understanding Vedas makes them non-commodifiable. I hope I am, making myself clear. The very proper bona fide procedure of understanding the Vedas ensures that the student does not exploit the Vedas in order to attain some selfish motive. Therefore, the student is supposed to stay with the teacher and serve the teacher. It's very important to serve a senior devotee, to serve a guru, to be under someone. It is a very, very unfavorable tendency in some individuals that they want to become a leader even though they have not served under any Vaishnava or a senior guru for certain number of years. Before we become leaders in a Vaishnava society, before we claim to be someone's Shiksha Guru, before we give some knowledge to somebody else, the first question, the burning question, the elephant in the room is, have you rendered service to a guru or a senior Vaishnava who is your Shiksha Guru? Have you rendered service to such a person? Or did you suddenly announce yourself as the popular YouTube guru? So between these two, people will always have these questions in mind. Especially sincere seekers will always ask these questions. Because a true guru is somebody who has been a true disciple, who has been a selfless disciple without motives. Unless one has been a selfless disciple without motives and served the guru, it is impossible for someone to become a genuine leader. So genuineness cannot be faked. This is one thing. When it comes to spiritual life, genuineness cannot be faked. And one may try very hard and he may try to fake it for some time. But ultimately, time is a very good teacher. And time teaches everyone that genuineness cannot be faked. So it is very important that one should approach a guru, one should serve a senior Vaishnava. And then when the guru gives somebody the blessings that, yes, I am happy with your service, now you can take upon the task of giving shiksha to others. That is when one should understand that one's knowledge is now mature enough to be given to others. Otherwise, pade pade skhalanam, at every step one will make mistakes. At each and every step one will make mistakes. And one will think that actually the credit goes to me for speaking so much. Today, if I do not serve my Gurujans, and if I suddenly today come to ISKCON Richmond and say, well, I am Hari Das, and what is my qualification? My qualification is that I studied the books for 5 more years than all of you. That's all. I hope you, so then, therefore, you should listen to me. So if that is my only qualification, that I studied the books for 5 more years than everybody else, then that is truly not a qualification. The qualification is that have you rendered service to some Vaishnava? That qualification we want to hear from such a person who has selflessly rendered some service to a Vaishnava, who has been blessed by their Guru Janas, that now you are eligible to speak to others. So this is the reason why one should approach a Guru. Now, as I said, Vidya Devi was very afraid when she approached a Brahmana that there are people who are unqualified who will hurt me. They'll hurt me badly. So, in order to understand what is the proper mode of approaching Shastra for gaining Vidya, because we say Harinam is Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. You must have heard Vidya is a married lady, Vadhu. She's the wife. And Harinam is the Jivana, is the life heirs. It's the life of that Vidya. So we will be able to get Harinam, the life and soul of Vidya. But how will we be able to get that if we demean Vidya herself? So we should not demean Vidya by becoming an unqualified person. So Vidya herself said something to the Brahmana. What did she say? 3 types of people I do not like. Who are these? Asuyakaya and Rijave Ayataya. First is Asuyakaya, a person who envies Vedic knowledge or the Guru. So we should not become this type of person. Sometimes people study Vedic knowledge in order to defeat Vedic knowledge. Sometimes people study, believe it or not. I'll give an example. When the British first came to India, they saw that India was replete with Vedic schools. And when they asked the Pandits, well, when were the Vedas written? So the Pandit said, well, the Vedas were written at the beginning of creation. That's what the Vedic scholars told them. So some of the Indologists were not happy with this answer because they wanted to show that the Vedas are creations of mortals. So some of the Indologists, they studied some portions of the Vedas, and then they said by estimation, we can estimate that the Rig Veda was written 5,000 years ago. By our estimation, the Rig Veda was written 5,000 years ago. So literature which has actually no date of creation was ascribed a date of creation in order to trivialize its divinity and to show that it is a creation of mortals. Asuyakaya, one who envies Vedic knowledge. So such a person should never be taught Vedic literature. Second is unrijave, one who is not simple. Riju means simple. The term riju means simple. Unriju means a person who is not simple-hearted, not simple in his mood and intentions. Suppose, let's say I am a congregation member of ISKCON Richmond and Divyanam Prabhu is our senior leader. And I am a new Bhakta. And Divyanam Prabhu, he teaches us everything. Selflessly, he is teaching everything. So I trained under Divyanam Prabhu for a few years, 5-6 years, and he teaches me Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam and everything. And after 5-6 years, well, I sideline him, and without giving him any credit, I start gathering my own following. So I learned Vedic knowledge from him, but I was not simple in my mood and intentions. My intentions were not to learn Vedic knowledge for progressing in my own bhajan. My intentions were something completely different. My intentions were to take the center stage in the assembly of Vaishnavas in order to make myself feel prominent in the society of Vaishnavas. So, a person who is crooked, who has some ulterior intention behind learning. Suppose if I learn Shastra and every day on Facebook I start a new debate, and when somebody argues against me, well, I quote Shastra after Shastra after Shastra in order to defeat them and to show people that, well, you better be afraid of who you are speaking to. So in order to prove this point, I learn Shastra. That is unriju, a person who is not simple in his mood and intentions. So I should not become like that. And ayataya. Sometimes people want the tag of being a learned person, but they are not willing to put the yatna. Yatna means the effort to, or the required dedication and self-control to study the Shastra. So they just want some quick recognition. So they don't put some effort, and they may steal some effort from others, and then they may, try to present it as if they are learned in that literature when they are not. That is ayataya, one who doesn't put the required effort, because to put the effort requires a lot of time. It requires time, it requires patience. Painfully, mistakes have to be corrected. Then one comes to the point of understanding Shastra nicely. But if it's not instant coffee, that within 5 minutes I understood Vedic literature. Sometimes some books are there which are cheating us. Like there was a book I saw, learn Sanskrit in 21 days. It's cheating. It's actually outright cheating. You cannot learn the language of the Vedas in 21 days. Dvadasha varsham shruyate vyakaranam. My gurus told me that grammar 12 years is required. How can it be 21 days? So when I see the title of the book, learn Sanskrit in 21 days, and then something should be added, and forget it in 2 days. Learn Sanskrit in 21 days and forget it all in 2 days. So, so all such people are unqualified. And well, somebody may say, so what? So what if they are unqualified? They are doing great service. If Hari Parshad does, if you just learn a few things from Divyanam Prabhu, your local leader, and you just start speaking to others, won't you make devotees, new devotees? Yes, I'll make new devotees. Isn't that the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement, to make new devotees? Yes, obviously it is. So how do the means matter when the end result is achieved? The means matter a lot. Why do they matter? Because by cheating Divyanam Prabhu and by snatching away his credit and learning from him and later not, rendering any service to him, I may be able to make new devotees in my own little tiny new Sangha. But what I will be deprived of is the highest result which I will not get in my life. There are two things which I will not get because of such a behavior. One is anubhuti. That is a genuine experience of bhakti ras, a genuine experience of Krishna consciousness. It's very, after a few years, this will matter a lot when, I may have my I may have my followers, I may have my, tiny little circle of devotees. But if I don't have anubhuti, if I don't have a genuine experience of Krishna, I will have the entire world, but within my heart, there will be a big vacuum. Big vacuum. And then these arguments which I am giving today, so what difference does it make as long as I am creating new devotees? This argument will not work at that time. Because I created new devotees, but in my own heart, I am lacking anubhuti, anubhav, the direct experience of Krishna Bhakti Ras. And I came actually in the movement for experiencing Krishna consciousness, not for simply theoretically knowing and making a show of Krishna consciousness. I came in the movement for experiencing Krishna Bhakti. So if I don't have Anubhuti, experience, I don't have Preeti, genuine love, then all I have attained is through Bhakti, I attained some, Artha and Kama, some money, some wealth, some followers and fulfillment of some desires, but I could not attain Anubhuti, genuine experience of Krishna. And day by day, after day, I will be rotting inside my, lonely existence without Krishna, which I don't want, which I certainly do not want in my life. Therefore, Hari Parshad Das, be intelligent. Trade your so-called desires for instant coffee with genuine Anubhuti. Give up your desires and purchase genuine Anubhuti experience of Krishna. Purchase that. That is a deal well done. And after you have Anubhuti, then when you speak, then the followers which you will get, they will be very genuine followers. Very genuine followers. So this is very important to understand these things when we are studying Shastra. Because see, in our society, there are many things which can bring us some name and fame. Like somebody is good in Kirtan. A Kirtan is one thing where you're exposed to the public. These are some services where you get exposed to the public, like singing Kirtan. Now, in singing Kirtan, so that is a completely different field, because in singing Kirtan, there are many things that are required. One is proper time, proper mood. Then some additional features are if you're singing in the proper tune, proper raga for pleasing Krishna. So all those things are there. But the first most important thing is proper time, proper mood, and proper surrender to Bhagwan. If these things are there, then the basic things are there while singing Kirtan. Then additional ornaments can be there, proper raga, a proper knowledge of instruments, everything else. And such a person who's singing Kirtan can have genuine Anubhuti, experience of Bhakti Ras. But let's say the basics are missing. If I am a person who sings Kirtan, the basics are missing. So I just learned how to sing a few tunes. And then I thought, well, I know tunes. Yeah. So Divyanam Prabhu doesn't know what is Rag Malhar, Rag Darbari, Rag Bhim Palasi, and I know what is Rag Bhim Palasi. So I think I will be able to render this service much better than him. So I sing. But the foundations themselves are missing in the heart of such a person. So in all services where we are exposed to the general public, we should be very careful that we can very quickly become unqualified. Now, in order to understand Shastra, if we truly want to become a qualified person, in order to approach Shastra, whenever we open the pages of Shastra, especially the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, we should understand that we are coming in direct contact with Krishna. The Srimad Bhagavatam is directly Krishna. But directly Krishna, why can't I see the threefold bending form? If Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna, why can't I see the threefold bending form? So because Shastra is a specific representation of Krishna, or we can say that Shastra is the word personification of Krishna. If Krishna were to take the form of words, then that would be Srimad Bhagavatam. And where is it mentioned? It is mentioned in Shastra itself. So everything, for all pramanas, we come back to Shastra. For all pramanas, for establishing that Krishna is Shastra, we come to Shastra. So this Shastra is so important. It is so important, dear devotees, please try to understand. Shastra has such importance that if even Krishna decides to speak against Shastra, then we will reject Krishna's instructions. Please understand this. When Krishna appeared as Shri Buddha, and Krishna said, reject the Vedas. So the Vaishnava says, we reject you. Please see this. See the wonderful thing. When Krishna himself speaks against Shastra, the devotees do not accept Krishna. In our Vaishnava calendar, is there any fasting on Buddha Jayanti. It is mentioned in the Vaishnav calendar that today is Buddha Jayanti. But do we Vaishnavas fast till noon or fast till evening, or do we have Ekadashi Prasad on that day? No, we don't observe. Why? Because if Krishna has spoken against Shastra, then we don't accept even Krishna. That is the importance of sticking to Shastra. That is the importance of speaking from Shastra. Even Bhagavan himself is required to speak in accordance with the Shastra which he has created. If he doesn't follow his own manual, then we will not accept him. That is our specific nature. We want Bhagavan who is perfect. At least our Bhagavan should be perfect. At least our Supreme Personality of Godhead should be perfect in his own behavior. So, Shastra is word personification of Krishna. To Shri Ananta Shesh, he says to Chitraketu, Shabda Brahma, Param Brahma, Mamobhe Shashwati Tanu. Mama Ubhe Shashwati Tanu. I have two eternal Shashwati Tanu bodies. What are these two eternal bodies? Shabda Brahma. One body is Vedic literature, the absolute truth in the form of words, which is Shabda Brahma. And second is Param Brahma, my transcendental forms such as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Rasimha, Vaman, beginning with Krishna, all my transcendental forms. These are two eternal bodies that I have, Shabda Brahma and Param Brahma. These are my two eternal bodies. And these two bodies have a relationship with each other. What is the relationship? One is the denoter, one is the denoted. Shabda Brahma is the denoter, Param Brahma is the denoted. So, for example, each and every one of us has a name. My name is Hari Parshad Das. So if I write on a piece of paper Hari Parshad Das, what is written on the piece of paper is the denoter. And the personality, who has two hands and two legs, that personality is the denoted. I hope you are able to understand. Similarly, in case of Krishna, Shastra is the denoter, Shabda Brahma is the denoter, Param Brahma is the denoted. So these are two eternal forms of Krishna and they have a relationship of denoter and denoted between them. Vedas are denoters of the denoted entity named Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So that is the relationship between these two eternal forms. In my case, in the case of a conditioned soul like myself, neither the name nor the body is eternal. But in the case of Krishna, the denoter as well as the denoted are both eternal. So that's the difference between the living entity and Krishna. So Shastra is word personification of Krishna, Shabda Brahma. So when we are seeing the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, we should actually know that this is Shri Krishna in his word personified form. So when we see Krishna in such a form, if we ever see Krishna, the first thing we will do is offer prayers. Therefore, before we start reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we should always offer prayers. Mangala Charan should always be offered by each and every one of us. These prayers are being offered to the Srimad Bhagavatam because Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Secondly, when we study any knowledge, especially knowledge of the Shastra, we should utilize it for proper purpose and we should not misutilize it. There is a nice verse quoted by previous acharyas. Vidya vivadaya dhanam madaya shakti paresham paripeedanaya khalasya sadhor viparitametat jnanaya danaya charakshanaya. So, if I am a ruffian, then I will misutilize my vidya. How will I misutilize it? Vidya vivadaya. I will use my vidya for vivad, for argumentation and defeating others. Dhanam madaya. If I earn some wealth, I will use it to increase my intoxication of material life. Shakti, and if I have some strength in my life, some political strength, physical strength, pareyasham paripeedanaya, I will give trouble to others. But khalasya, that is if I am a ruffian. But sadhor viparitameta, but if I am a sadhu, I will do the exact opposite. What will I do? Jnanaya. So if I have vidya, I will use it for jnanaya, for giving knowledge to others. Danaya, if I have dhanam, if I have wealth, I will use it for dana, giving charity to others. Charakshanaya, and if I have Shakti, if I have strength, I will use it for protecting others. But if I misutilize it, then I will use my Vidya only for arguing with others. This is the translation. The ruffian's knowledge is meant for debates. His wealth is for increasing his intoxication, and his strength is for troubling others. The sadhu, on the other hand, uses knowledge for true learning, wealth for charity, and strength for protecting others. So, understanding that we have to utilize Shastra properly. Therefore, the proper method of studying Shastra is mentioned by our previous acharyas. Whenever we study Shastra, we should study Shastra in its entirety. Let's say I am studying Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's say I'm studying Bhagavad Gita. If I have a verse in front of me, Prabhupada has given all the elements of proper study in his literature. And there are 5 elements of proper study in traditional Shastra. These 5 elements are mentioned. They are known as Panchalakshanam, the 5 characteristics of Vyakhyan, complete explanation of Shastra. So, complete explanation of Shastra should consist of 5 things. And this is the proper method of study. Padachedah padarthoktir vigraho vakya yojana akshepasya samadhanam vyakhyanam panchalakshanam. 5 characteristics of a complete understanding of Shastra. First, if I study a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Padachedah, break down word for word. Sometimes we are so eager to finish the Bhagavad Gita, we don't even read the word for word in our personal study. So first element of study should be breaking down word for word. Padachedah. Why don't we read each and every term? Is it because those terms are not important? Only the translation is important? No. If only the translation is important, then Srila Prabhupada would have not given the word for word. The very fact that Srila Prabhupada has given word for word is for the reason that we should break down the verse into its individual components, into the individual terms. And we should relish each and every individual term. So, Padachedah, breaking down into individual terms. Second is Padartha, Pada Artha Ukti. And Artha, the meaning of every individual term should be understood. Therefore, Prabhupada not only broke down the terms, but also gave word for word meaning. So, not only breaking down the, for example, first verse, Dharma Kshetre, first term, Kuru Kshetre, second term, Samaveta, third term, Yuyutsavaha, fourth term, Mamakaha, fifth term, Pandavaha, sixth term, Cha, seventh term, Eva, eighth term, Kim, ninth term, Akurvata, 10th term, Sanjaya, 11th term, total 11 terms. Now, this is Padacheda, breaking down. Pada Artha Ukti, now knowing the meanings of these. Because if I have not understood the meaning of a single term, then I have not understood the verse. I have not understood the verse as long as even a single term is left ununderstood. So, if I have to understand the verse, I have to understand the meaning of each and every term. Then I can say that I have understood the verse. Pada Artha Ukti. For this reason, Prabhupada gave the meanings of every term. Then Vigraha. Vigraha means then explanation of some difficult terms. Some terms are difficult. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a term when Duryodhan describes to Dronacharya, aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam. Paryaptam, he uses 2 opposite words, aparyaptam and paryaptam. So aparyaptam means it is insufficient, and paryaptam means it is sufficient. And sometimes there are words which are combined words which take up a lot of space, which take up a lot of lines. So breaking down those words into individual components. It's like Dharma Kshetre. Dharma Kshetre is a combination of 2 terms, Dharma and Kshetre. So Vigraha means breaking down combined words into individual terms. That is Vigraha. Then Vakya Yojana. Vakya means sentence and Yojana means formation. So forming a legible sentence, forming a legible translation. So forming a legible translation. So breaking down into individual terms, understanding every term, especially understanding the difficult terms, not running away from difficult terms, forming a legible translation. And fifth, akshepasya samadhanam. Samadhanam means resolving the akshepa queries. So resolving all the queries that is Prabhupada has done in his purport. So, Vyakhyanam Pancha Lakshanam. These are the 5 characteristics of a complete explanation of Shastra. Now, if we don't study Shastra from these 5 perspectives, then we have not understood the Shastra completely. So if we want to study like a good, honest, dedicated student, so we will first and foremost, we should have some time, quality time without disturbance, and we should study from 5 angles. When we have studied from 5 angles, then we have understood the verse as far as self-study is concerned. From a self-study point of view, we have done our duty. So this is the translation. A Vyakhyan, complete explanation of any Shastra, consists of 5 aspects. Padachhedaha, breaking down the text into individual terms. Padarthokti, explaining the meaning of each and every term. Vigraha, explaining the grammatical breakdown of difficult terms. Vakya Yojana, forming a meaningful sentence by showing the connections between the various terms. In Sanskrit, this is also known as Anvay. And 5th and last is Akshepasya Samadhanam, the resolution of various doubts and the correction of the various errors that the disciple might have made while understanding the Shastra. So when the Guru is present, directly present in front of the disciple, the Guru will say, you made a mistake in understanding this. So correct yourself. So that is when the Guru is directly present. So it is also needed for a physically present Guru to correct the disciple. The Guru should correct the disciple, Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, anyone. But we should have some senior personality. Otherwise, I will become, self-learning, what should I say, self-trained individual makes n number of mistakes. Without correction from a Guru, a so-called self-proclaimed, self-trained person makes n number of mistakes. A personal Guru is required for correcting all the errors. I'll give a very simple example. Many times devotees ask me that you sing the verses in various meters. Where can we learn the meters? Very, very nice. You take this literature for understanding meters. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Guru, Gangadas Pandit, his grammar Guru, wrote a book, Chando Manjari. Take the book. The formula for all the meters are explained there. They say very well. We'll understand the formula. Short syllable, long syllable, short syllable, long. We understand the formula. But where did you learn how to sing it? Because the singing cannot be recorded in books. So where did you learn how to sing it? Well, I learned it from a person. Well, I learned it from my Gurujanas. Therefore, it's very important to have the physically present Guru to teach some things which cannot be taught by books. It's a very simple thing. When a small child enters into the elementary grade, they have to be taught ABC. The first thing that they learn in school is ABC, alphabet. So while learning ABC, why don't we just give them the books? Why do we have a teacher? If we meditate upon this, why is there a physically present teacher to teach the students ABC? Why can't we just give them the books and YouTube videos to make them learn ABC? Because even in the simplest of all things, like learning ABC, the students are going to make hundreds of mistakes. And to correct those hundreds of mistakes and to tell the students that you have made a mistake here, this is how it should be done, don't repeat this mistake, a physically present Guru is needed. So then what makes me think that Hari Parshad Das, without having a physically present Guru who will correct you in your mistakes, you will become a self-proclaimed learner of Shastra. It is absolutely impossible. I will fall on my face if I try to do something like that. So in very basic things like writing ABC, a personal Guru is required. What to speak of understanding Vedic literature, which are like the razor's edge. It is very difficult, and therefore a Guru is required. So another thing is, sometimes, this is 1 or 2 final things which I want to say. Sometimes we want to understand something, but even after hearing from a Guru, sometimes we don't understand. Sometimes we hear from senior devotees, senior Vaishnavas, sometimes we don't understand. So, like I'll give an example. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he received his Kama Gayatri mantra from his Guru. And his Guru told him there are certain number of syllables in this Kama Gayatri. And he accepted it as it is, as his Guru told him. Later, after a few years, he realized that, well, my guru told me these many number of syllables were there, but I am finding that half a syllable is missing. When he counted it a few years later, he found half a syllable missing. And but that time his guru was not physically present to tell him how to count that half syllable. So even though he had heard from his guru, there was one doubt which was remaining in his heart, that where is the missing half syllable in the Kam Gayatri. It's a very well-known incident that the Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur could not find half a syllable in the Kam Gayatri. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, because he was not used to this situation, because whenever he touched any Shastra, he understood it completely. This was the first time that even after hearing from his guru, there was some doubt which was remaining and he could not get it solved from his guru. So this put him, he was immensely perplexed. Day and night he prayed to Srimati Radharani and Krishna. And after many days, only after the passage of time, one fine day, Srimati Radharani appeared to him and explained to him where is the missing half syllable. So sometimes even after we hear from our Gurujanas, some things may remain unresolved for us, because at that time we may not be paying attention. But Krishna will ensure that these things will be sorted out. And this is mentioned in a very nice verse. Kalena padam labate tathartham tatascha padam guru yogatascha utsaha yogena cha padam rikshe shastrena padam cha tato ubhiyati. The sincere student attains a quarter of the meaning of the Vedas first by passage of time, a quarter by staying with the Guru, a quarter by his own enthusiasm, and a quarter by mutual discussion of Shastra with other students. So 1/4 is understood only with the passage of time. So it's not that today, it's not, Vedas are not like a supermarket commodity. I took it, I put it in my basket and now it's mine. It's not like that. You may think that you put it in your basket, but it will always end up surprising you. It will tell you that you don't understand. Therefore, some time is needed. It's very important to give time in order to gain a proper mature understanding. So time, study from the Guru, study one's own self-study, and mutual discussion with other students. These are the 4 components of complete understanding of Shastra. So having said this, after we read all Shastra, after we understand how to read Shastra, what is the aim of doing all this? What is the aim of knowing all these techniques? Srila Rupa Goswami says one thing. This is the final verse which I am putting. Srila Rupa Goswami says in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that after understanding all these techniques, the one thing we should do is this. Shrimad Bhagavatarthanam aswado rasikai sah. Aswado, you have to relish. Arthanam, the meanings of Shrimad Bhagavatam. But rasikai hi sah, relish it with other connoisseurs of Shrimad Bhagavatam. Relish it with other people who have gone through this process, who have gone through the difficulties that you have gone through, and then they become Rasika devotees. The Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for Rasikas. The 3rd verse it says, Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. Oh, Rasikas, relish Srimad Bhagavatam. So the ideal candidate for relishing Srimad Bhagavatam is mentioned in the 3rd verse of the Bhagavatam. The ideal candidate for relishing Srimad Bhagavatam is the Rasik devotee, the connoisseur of Rasa, Bhakti Rasa, who understands through and through what is Bhakti Rasa. If such people, 2 or 3 such people are found, relish Srimad Bhagavatam with them. That is the perfection of understanding and reading all Shastras. So if this we can attain, if this is such a potent limb of Bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami says out of 64 limbs of Bhakti, 5 are most important. And this is one of the 5 most important limbs of Bhakti. The 5 most important limbs of Bhakti are Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, and Bhagavat Shravan. Bhagavat Shravan means with whom? With the Rasikas. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, discussing Bhagavatam with the Rasikas. Mathura was staying in Mathura, and Shri Murti Sevan, serving the deity. So to the 5 limbs, this is one of the 5 most important limbs which can give prema. So one should relish the various meanings of Srimad Bhagavatam with Rasikas. If we can achieve this, dear devotees, if we can avoid the pitfalls, if we can avoid exchanging our bhakti, if we can avoid exchanging our vidya, with trivial goals such as name, fame, followers. If we can avoid that pitfall, then there is a good chance that we will be able to attain the goal of life, which is Shri Krishna Prem. With this, I would like to thank all of you once again. Yadatra sthalitam kinchit vidvamsah purayantu tat yadatra saushthavam kinchit tad guroreva mainai. Yadatra skhalitam kinchit. It's possible that I might have made some mistakes while speaking, because as a human being, I have 4 defects. But vidvamsah, you are learned people, purayantu tat. Please correct any mistakes that I might have made. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit. But if there is anything nice which you liked in the entire presentation, please understand, tad guroreva. It belongs to my Gurujanas. May nahi. It doesn't belong to me. Thank you very much, Divyanam Prabhu. Thank you very much, all the congregation devotees of ISKCON Richmond and all the devotees who are present from the various parts of the world. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai. His Grace Hari Parshad Prabhu ki jai. Truly, truly, from all our hearts, Prabhu, we can't thank you enough for this such an important and wonderful presentation. It's so, so critical for all of the practicing devotees, which you have presented in such a beautiful way. Every single thing is coming from the Shastras itself. So we are very, very grateful to you, Prabhu. So many important points you brought up, which we all should meditate again and again, especially the point you mentioned that, when we come into the forefront, any service which, brings us into the forefront, it is very easy to be unqualified for that service. And then the point you mentioned that, why we came to Krishna consciousness is very, very important to always remember. The whole thing is in such a way that we want to create more devotees, we want to build temples, everything is very nice and good. We are in this movement to spread the, holy names, but ultimately the purpose is to experience it and, taste, ultimately get the love, which is such an important point. And the slide you gave where Vidya Devi herself is telling, I do not want to go to these people. So, that explains everything, that we should not be that one. We should not be envious of her. We should keep ourselves simple. We should not have ulterior motives. And the third one is that we should not be lazy. We should be ready to put efforts, sincere efforts. So many wonderful, wonderful points, Prabhu. I really, really thank on behalf of all the devotees present here, ISKCON of Richmond. So it's 11:23 here. We have a few minutes and devotees already raised their hands. So it looks like they have some questions. Is it okay, Prabhu, if we can take
I have all the time, but you should tell when to stop. I have all the time.
Okay. So we have about 5 hands raised. So we'll keep up to these hands. So it looks like devotees already raised their hands. So we'll have 5 questions and then I will end the session. Okay, so we'll go in the order. So we request devotees to unmute themselves in order. They raise their hands and they can ask their question to Prabhu. So the first question is from Gail.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
My friend.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This class was perfect. Just some clarifications. I actually need a few clarifications. One is when you were telling us how to study verses, one of the things we should do was understand the word for word meanings, right? So I wasn't clear, how was that one different from the first process of just breaking down the terms? And also the third one, something about getting grammatical understanding.
Right. So let's practically understand it. So do you remember the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Mataji?
Yeah. At least the translation.
Okay,
You know,
let's
what did my sons do?
Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsava
Yeah.
Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Now, this is the original Bhagavad Gita. The Sanskrit is the original Bhagavad Gita. Right? So, the first point is to break down the original Bhagavad Gita into individual terms. So, to break down the original Sanskrit into individual terms. So, the first term is Dharma Kshetre. The second is Kurukshetre. Second term is Kurukshetre. So, this is the first aspect of the study, to break down the original verse into individual terms. The second point was to know the meaning of each and every term that has been broken down. That was the second point.
Yes.
Okay. And the third point was that if there are some compound terms where 2 or 3 or more terms are combined together to make a single term, those are known as compound terms.
Mm.
For example, in English, there are compound terms. For example, in English, there may be a term is crossroads. So crossroads is a single term, but it is a compound term made out of 2 terms, cross and roads. Similarly, in Sanskrit, there may be compound terms which are made out of 2 or more terms. So when such compound terms are found, then the proper breakdown of those compound terms, that is the third point. So how do we understand the individual terms of a compound term? That is the...
Yeah, and that one, that's what it sounds a little bit similar to, like Dharma Jake today. We could break that down into Dharma and Jake.
Kshetra, yes. So what is the exact breakdown of Dharma Kshetra? So the exact breakdown is Dharmasya Kshetra, in the battlefield of Dharma. So that of is the connector between the 2 terms, Dharma and Kshetra. So that is Vigraha.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying that the difference between number 1 and number 3 seems like more of a technicality, because
it's a technicality, but in Sanskrit grammar, that is required to understand that terms completely.
Okay, and then also the process. Another thing I wanted to clarify is that the process of understanding Shastra, you said that process itself prevents it from becoming commercialized.
The genuine process of understanding Shastra is such that if one follows the genuine process, he will not be able to commodify Shastra.
Is the reason because he himself won't be able to, because of his bad intentions or insincere intentions, he won't be able to understand it?
If he has insincere intentions, then he will not be able to follow the process. But if he has sincere intentions and he follows the process, then the process itself will purify him to an extent that he will never misuse. Because he has to render service to the Guru for so many years. For decades, he has to render service to the Guru. And he has to keep all his personal ambitions aside. Then he can understand the Veda. So the Brahman...
sorry.
Yes. So to give up personal ambition for so many years and to serve the Guru selflessly, that itself takes away a lot of baggage from the disciple.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that a person can commercialize it. They won't be able to give the real understanding, but they can still commercialize it.
Yeah, but if somebody is a genuine follower of the process, they will not commercialize, because they know they don't want to cheat others.
Right, but I'm just saying that it doesn't, how should I say?
Or let me put it this way. When he is a student, in his student life, he will not be able to commercialize it if he is following the genuine process.
Okay. All right. And, one thing you said about the when you were talking about reciting in the proper tune, you need a live guru for that. And so I'm just wondering, since the tune cannot be found in Shastra, and Shastra is everything for, the sincere devotee, I'm wondering how important the tune really is, because we cannot refer to Shastra for it.
Yeah, the tune is not found in the written Shastra, because Shastra was written down at a certain point of time. But before that, Shastra was conveyed from guru to disciple through verbal communication along with the tune. It's only after Shastra was written down that the tunes were lost in the written Shastra.
But we cannot therefore check, let's say, that a tune is bona fide today by referring to Shastra, isn't it?
That we cannot check, because the tunes, the ragas, the talas, they were the exact way of actually singing them were not recorded on the pages of the paper, but they came from guru disciple succession.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I just needed to confirm that, we cannot actually check that, today. Then the very last thing I wanted to ask you is, how would you define serving Shastra?
To serve Shastra is to first and foremost selflessly give the prime years of one's life in understanding it. And after understanding it nicely and getting all of one's doubts resolved, then on the order of the guru, to speak it to others. That is service to Shastra.
Okay. Thank you so much for your patient answering of my questions. Thank you, Prabhu.
Wonderful. So next question is from Janki Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Danvat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. My question was on the eligibility aspect of studying Shastra, Prabhu. One was because we are in the time right now of book distribution. So my original intention of asking this question is coming from there. We mentioned that we have to be eligible to study Shastra, but while distributing books, we are giving the books to everybody who's eligible or not eligible at the same time. So how do we understand that?
Right. So while distributing books, we give it to anyone and everyone irrespective of their eligibility. And therefore, we also see that not everybody takes up to the process of Krishna Bhakti. And those who do end up taking up to the process of Krishna Bhakti are those who read the Shastra with a certain degree of acceptance and Shraddha, or with a certain degree of surrender to the meanings of the Shastra. So because of their previous Sukriti, or let's say because of their previous inclinations, Swabhav, they have some Bhakti Sukriti maybe. Therefore, they become favorable to reading that Shastra. So some inherent Shraddha is present in them, because of which they are able to understand the Shastra, because of which they are able to take up to the process of Bhakti. So our aim in book distribution is mainly to catch those people who have that inherent Shraddha from previous lives, so that they will be able to take up to the process of Bhakti. And in the end of the day, we know that there are some people who will never take to the process of Bhakti, but we still give the book to them. Why we are giving it is so that even if they don't take it in this life, at least they'll read something and they may develop some Sukriti, so that they can take it up in their next lives. But those who have the Sukriti from previous lives, at least they should be able to get the proper method by which they can take to the process of Bhakti. So the ideal audience for the book distribution is the favorable candidates who have Shraddha in Shastra.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you so much. My second question was on the sense of the purpose of all practicing sadhakas. They accidentally somehow connect to Krishna consciousness, or they have some agyat sukriti or past karmas. When they have that, when they establish that, and when they are practicing, and at the same time, we know that bhakti is something very, very rare, a commodity. Actually, it's rare. I mean, it's not there, but it is very rare. It is there, it is very rare. How do we, I honestly want to understand, how do we experience bhakti?
See, to begin bhakti is not so rare. To enter into the process of bhakti is not so rare. Many people enter into the process of bhakti. But to attain the highest stages of bhakti is extremely rare, because most people are not able to overcome the obstacles. And many people do not even know how to overcome the obstacles. So to begin bhakti is not so difficult, but to reach the pinnacle of devotional service, which is Krishna Prem, is extremely rare. And it requires a person of a certain devotional attitude to reach that point. What is genuine experience of bhakti? Actually, genuine experience of bhakti is experience of bhakti ras. One who experiences bhakti ras in relationship with Krishna has had a genuine experience of bhakti. So when we experience bhakti ras in relationship with Krishna, that is when we say that we have had a genuine experience of bhakti. Because bhakti is in relationship to Bhagavan. And only when there is some reciprocal relationship of rasa between Bhagavan and the Bhakta, then we can say that Bhagavan has interacted with us and we have exchanged some rasa with Bhagavan, and that is our genuine experience in bhakti. That is our wealth in our bhakti. So that experience, to experience bhakti means to experience bhakti rasa. But to experience bhakti rasa, for that we have to have immense training under the Guru. We have to have immense mercy of the Vaishnavas, the Guru Janas, and most importantly, Krishna should agree that this person is eligible. Now I agree this person is eligible for experiencing Bhakti Ras. So that will bring about a genuine experience of Krishna Bhakti.
Wonderful. So thank you,
Right.
Janki Mataji, for nice questions. So it's already 11:37. We'll take a few more questions quickly. So next is from Shamla Gopika Mataji. Kindly keep to just one question, as we have other devotees. We request you. Okay, Shamla Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept me humble and most Thank you so much for a wonderful session, Prabhu. I will restrict myself. Actually, I have 3 questions, but I will restrict to one question, which is, so you said like everything we have to understand and clarify from our Guru, whether we understand correctly or not. So in a practical way, so definitely like Siksha, Diksha, Guru, so everyone is not accessible easily. So how can I understand, like every day we are studying Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. So how can I practically check myself, like whether I'm studying properly, understanding correctly?
Right. Sometimes Shiksha Guru may not always be available to teach verse by verse. In that case, one should at least have a group of students who are studying together so that the errors are minimized. Still, some errors may creep in our understanding, and for that a guru is absolutely required. So sometimes when we have a group of, like I said, 1/4 of the understanding comes by mutual discussion with students. There was a verse quoted. So 1/4 of the understanding comes by mutual discussion with other students. 1/4 comes with the passage of time. 1/4 comes with one's own effort. But that remaining 1/4 requires a guru. So sometimes a guru will be needed to teach that. So from time, we should have one Shiksha Guru who is accessible to us. One good Shiksha Guru who is accessible to us. When that is the case, then we can easily understand. So that's the answer to your question.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Wonderful. So the next question is from Devansh Prabhu. Please go ahead, Prabhu. Devansh Prabhu, you have your hand raised. Okay, so if not, then maybe we can go to the next. Omkar Das Prabhu. Omkar Prabhu?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go
Right.
ahead.
Prabhu, the devotee has typed the question in the chat. So would Prabhuji answer his question first?
Yeah, so Devansh Prabhu is asking, do Gaudiya Acharyas before Bhakti Vinod Thakur also accept Varna by birth?
Varna is by two factors. One is by birth, another is by eligibility. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam also there are many places where Varna has been accepted by birth. I will show an example of this. For example, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 8th chapter, verse number 6, it is said, Nanda Maharaj says to Garga Muni, Janmana Brahmano Guru. So in the translate with word for word, it says Janmana, as soon as he takes birth, Brahmana, immediately the Brahmana becomes Guru. Okay, so the Brahmana becomes Guru simply by his very birth. And then there is an asterisk mark, which also explains that one has also to become qualified. So there are two means of attaining Varna. One is by birth, and even after birth, one has to attain qualification. Another way of attaining a specific Varna is to be to follow Vaishnav culture, to become reformed through Vaishnav Diksha. That is also another way of changing one's Varna. So there are two ways, one of which is birth. So that is the answer to your query. Correct.
Okay, so Omkar Prabhu, you have a question also?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam KG. Prabhuji, I had one question. When we understand some tattvas which are very deep, so in such understandings, sometimes we see that some of our Gurujanas have differing opinions about the same tattva. And here I refer to Gurujanas not just in a way like who are just senior in terms of years, but senior in terms of their practice and experience also. So in such cases, as a like a disciple, or you could say as a young devotee neophyte, it becomes difficult to deal with the situation because it's like we have two contradicting notions from our gurujanas. So how to go about, and that's from the same you can say gurujanas. So it's sometimes difficult, and we try to sideline the doubt, but it always remains in our heart.
Right. So one time Srila Prabhupada was asked about this when there was a difference of opinion between two acharyas, and a disciple wrote a letter to him, and Prabhupada replied to his letter, and here is Prabhupada's reply. This is from a letter in 19 February 1972. And he says this thing, as for your question about Shantaras and the opinions of Rupa Goswami and Sridhar Swami, I don't remember. You can send me the appropriate passages. Prabhupada says there is no reason why acharyas cannot differ on certain points. So you can see here Prabhupada is saying there is no reason why acharyas cannot differ on certain points. And as and when you study more, you will come across sections where you will find that acharyas are differing on certain points. See, one thing I'll tell you. If two individuals have the exact same opinions on each and every topic, then one of them is irrelevant. I hope you're able to understand. If two individuals have the exact same opinion on each and every topic in the world, then one of them is irrelevant. So Vedic culture encourages healthy differences of opinion. Healthy differences of opinion. I'll give an example of a difference of opinion. Amongst the 64 limbs of Bhakti in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, one of the limbs of Bhakti is to accept the Naivedya, to accept Prashadam, which has been offered to the Lord. So when Rupa Goswami is explaining that limb of Bhakti, Shiva Goswami says, one should not eat in front of the deity. You can eat Prashadam, don't eat in front of the deity. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, no, it's not like that. You can eat in front of the deity, but don't eat betel nut, don't eat pan. Otherwise you can eat, no problem. So I am stuck in this area, what to do? Should I take sides with you, Goswami, or should I take sides with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur? What should I do? You can see this verse and the commentary if you have Naivedyam Annam Tulasi Vimishram. It's there in the Bhakti Rasamrita. So you see both the commentaries, you see, find the difference. So Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan tells us how to resolve it. It's called Udit Anudit Hom Nyaya. So I'll very quickly explain what is Udit Anudit Hom Nyaya. In the Vedas, there is one section of the Vedas which says Udite Hotavyam. Offer oblations in the fire when the sun has risen. If you don't do that, then the dogs of the demigods will eat your oblations. And they become useless. Another section of the Vedas says Anudite Hotavyam. Offer oblations before the sun rises. If you don't do that, another set of dogs will eat your offerings. So, Baba, what should I do? Should I offer before the sun rises or after? In both cases, some dogs are waiting to eat my offering. I don't want the dogs of the demigods to eat my offerings. I want the offerings to be eaten by Agni. Agni should eat my offerings. Convert it to Soma. The Soma should reach the Devatas, and that is how my Vedic sacrifice is fulfilled. So I don't want the dogs to eat the offerings. So Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan says, in this case, there is a Nyaya, there is a logic established in Shastra, Udit Anudit Hom Nyaya, which means you can take sides with one of them, whichever you find is more logical and which is pertaining to your school of understanding or which your school of Veda, whichever school of Veda you belong to. And if you stick to your school of Veda, then the negative reaction of the other school doesn't apply to you. That is Udit Anudit Hom Nyaya. So now you have two acharyas. Now they may sometimes give a contradictory opinion. Now you decide which one is more logically appealing to your reason. You take sides with them without saying that the other acharya is wrong. I hope you're able to understand. So when we take sides with the opinions of one acharya, we don't say that the other one is wrong. We say, well, I respect the other opinion. This one appears more reasonable to me. Okay. So then the negative reaction of not accepting the other acharya's words doesn't come upon your head. That is Udit Anudit Hom Nyaya from traditional Vedic literature. So I hope this is clear. Correct?
Yes, true. But sometimes there are certain Siddhantic points which are like, if you accept an other option or opinion, then it's like automatically you're rejecting the other. It's like one way you have to.
No. On a case-to-case basis, you discuss with me. I'll maybe sometime I'll tell you how to respect the other opinion also. No problem. All right?
Yes. Yes.
So we pause here. Huh?
Yes, Prabhu, actually, there's just one more hand raised, so we want to respect that, if that's okay.
Sure. I have all the time. I thought you were getting late.
You're so kind and generous. So Arundhati Mataji wants to ask a question, looks like.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Such a nectarian class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. And other devotee questions answered most of my questions. So mine is very simple. Prabhuji, so while reciting this Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam verses, I have noticed, I don't know the standard meters. So, but at the same time, I have been noticing different Siksha Gurus reciting in different meters. So, I don't know how to take that, which one is correct, which is incorrect. And is there any standard resource or the class recorded by you? Can you direct me to the resources where we can learn the meters accurately?
See, one thing is learning the metrical formula. What is the mathematical formula of the meter? So that is the theory part. How to sing it, that you'll only find from individuals, from living individuals. So in different parts of India, different traditions sang it in different ways. So people who have learned it from different parts of India will sing it in different ways. And then you have to try to, I mean, the tune should go with the formula of the meter. But the most important thing is to learn how to identify the meter. In order to learn how to identify the meter, you have to learn Chanda Shastra. Chanda Shastra is the science of Sanskrit prosody or the science of Sanskrit meters. In order to learn that, you'll have to approach a person and who is well versed in Chanda Shastra and who can teach you. I can give the name of certain books, but a guru will be required. I learned my Chanda Shastra. My first book of learning Chanda Shastra was Shrutabodh of Kalidas. This was my first book. And my second book was Chando Manjari of Gangadas Pandit. So I learned my Chanda Shastra from these two books. My first book was Shrutabodh. My second book was Chando Manjari of Gangadas Pandit, who was the grammar teacher of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So you'll also have to follow some process, learn it from an individual guru, and get your doubts solved. And then you can, it will be easy to figure out which tunes are okay, which tunes are not.
Prabhu, we need to know the guru also, correct guru also, Prabhuji.
That's not a thing we tell on a Zoom call, is it?
I know. Sorry, Prabhu.
I just
Okay.
yes. Some things cannot be told on a Zoom call, such as who is my Diksha Guru, who is my Shiksha Guru, who is supposed to be my Ved Guru, or who is supposed to teach me this, that. But we should pray to Krishna. Maybe Krishna will send somebody who's qualified.
Okay, wonderful. So those were all the questions, but actually one Mataji, she had some issues raising her hand and she really wanted to ask questions. So that would be our last question. And that is from Radhika Rathi Mataji. Mataji, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself? Radhika Rathi Mataji wants to ask a question, right?
Yeah, sorry, Prabhuji,
Okay.
I was
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. I have a question. So understanding Shastras, like you talked about the verses, Sanskrit verses, how to simplify each word and understanding it. But, Prabhupada has given us everything, like all the translations of the main scriptures, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So not everyone is trained in Sanskrit from childhood, and at different phases of their lives, they are introduced to ISKCON and to the scriptures. So personally, correct me, guide me, Prabhuji. Like I personally feel Prabhupada has given us everything, all the translations. So understanding these Shastras through the translations versus, again, learning Sanskrit from basics. And you said it's not easy to learn Sanskrit in 30 days or 21 days. So how should we understand, like learning Shastras through translations versus understanding through verses? Please, can you help me, Prabhuji, with this?
So it's correct that Srila Prabhupada has given us the translations and has made things very easy for us. But it is also equally true that Srila Prabhupada did not give only the translations. He gave the original verse, the word for word, the meaning of every word, the translation and the purport. Now let's say if I say I want to understand the book, but I'll only take selectively what I can easily understand, even though Prabhupada has given all the elements of a complete explanation, then I may be able to understand a certain aspect of that Shastra. I don't doubt that. I don't say, yes, obviously, many devotees understand a lot by reading the translations. There's no doubt about that. But a complete and finer understanding of Shastra, for that, we have to also understand those things which Prabhupada has given. I'm not saying you have to go outside the framework of what Prabhupada has given. But those things which Prabhupada has given, but sometimes we neglect, such as the word for word, the breakdown of every word, the meaning of each and every word. Let me give an example. Like, after everything is read, ultimately we have to quote verses when we speak a class. I mean, nobody remembers a purport. Nobody remembers a translation so much. What devotees remember the most is the verse. So most of the devotees, they remember the purpose of reading Shastra is to understand the verse and to be able to quote it in a specific situation. But to be able to quote the verse in a specific situation, I should understand what each and every term in the verse means. So then I can confidently quote that verse. For my personal understanding, I can say translation, okay, I understood the translation. But for a complete understanding, we should take all the elements that Prabhupada has given. That is all that I am saying. I'm not saying that you go outside the framework of the framework which Prabhupada has given. We are taking things selectively from it, and that is a cause of concern for me. Sometimes I am seeing that devotees are reading reading Prabhupada's books. They are skipping the word for word altogether, skipping it completely altogether. Now, I should raise some point about this because it's a healthy concern. And I'm not saying that, oh, you have not understood anything if you don't read the word. Obviously, if you read translation, you have understood a significant portion. But for a complete understanding, we have to follow all the details that Prabhupada has given. And we should, because otherwise, sometimes devotees get into the thought process that this is not really needed for me, even though Prabhupada has given it. So there's a reason why Prabhupada, even half a syllable given by Prabhupada is not unimportant. Even half a syllable is important for me in my understanding of the verse. When that becomes, for example, the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, many of us know the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, there is a term in that first verse, tene. Janmadhyasya yaton vayadi taratas chartheshva vigya swarat tene. Tene. One time somebody asked me, what is the meaning of tene? I was fortunate I had read the word for word. So I said, oh, he elaborated upon, expanded upon. Tene is a verb. If I would have not read that, somebody, what is the meaning of tene? I would have been in a big fix. So it's important to read the word for word also, because people will ask. Sometimes I quote verses and people ask, Prabhu, what is the meaning of this term in the verse that you quoted? I say, oh, I didn't memorize that. I just memorized the verse. What do you expect? Huh? So I can't say like that. I don't have the liberty of saying like that. Because if I'm quoting the verses, I should know each and every term in the verse. So for that, Prabhupada is given word for word. That's it. Nothing else.
Awesome. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Thank you, Divyanam Prabhuji. Nice to see you. Thank you.
No problem, Mataji. Okay, so with that, one last time, we express our gratitude to you, Hari Parshad Prabhu, for your wonderful, wonderful Sangha, Katha, and your precious time. I know it's already very late in India, but you are so generous and compassionate that you agreed for this wonderful, wonderful, Sangha for benefit of all of us. So with that, just wanted to mention that this talk is available on YouTube. If you would like to go back and hear it again, you can go to ISKCON of Richmond channel and you will find this talk and many other talks over there. And if you would like to share this talk with others, feel free to do that. So with that, we also want to thank all the devotees who are here on this call. Especially would like to express our gratitude to Mother Kamilini and Apurva Prabhu, dear disciples of Srila Prabhupada from North Carolina. They are also here. Thank you very much for joining us. So with that, thank you all. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari.